How far can a Paragon get on its own? Well, we'll start out by building a map perfect for it. The easiest one to think of is the Apex Plasma Master by building a map where he's completely surrounded by obstacles. He'll be placed in the middle and the balloons will circle around him 23 times. Now, we just have to get a degree 100 Paragon, but getting one the normal way isn't fun, so we're going to God boost the Ultra Juggernaut to see if it can get the 16 million pops that we need to get a maxed out Paragon. Ignore the fact that I'm not using Geraldo, we'll fix that in a bit. So we got our Ultra Jugg and buffed him with everything we could think of. A support true Sun God, a perma-brew, overclock, ultra boost, primary expertise, a homeland defense, I mean, you name it, we had it. This worked great, but I wasn't sure how long it'd last. The first round I thought might give us trouble was round 140 with its fortified bad, but that turned out to be a piece of cake as it didn't even make it around a single loop, let alone all the way to the exit. So we trucked along, popping everything in sight. As long as it wasn't a fortified bad, we popped it pretty quick. A great showing of this was around 199, where our circle was filled with blimps, but our Ultra Jugg cleared it out. This continued for a long time, but as free play rounds go on, you face more and more bads. Pretty soon, it was really all we were facing, and they had so much health that they were just doing laps around the circle. At the time, I didn't know how many laps they needed to complete before leaving, so I was in a constant state of fear that they were going to exit, especially when we'd pop them and these super fast DDTs would complete 3 more laps before finally popping. But with a circle full of bads, it was round 252 that finally took us out. And what made it so painful was that it was the DDTs inside the final bad of the round that leaked. Still though, 1.3 billion pops on the Ultra Jugg is pretty crazy, and it made it farther than a degree 100 Ascended Shadow did on Cubism. That's the power of a perfect map. But now we need to make this thing an Apex Plasma Master. Unfortunately, we don't have any Paragon totems, so he only hit degree 92. I played this out to see how far it'd get, then I ran it back with Geraldo, this time getting him to degree 100. It'll be a fun little test to see how much farther the degree 100 gets. Starting with a degree 92, it picked up where the Ultra Jugg left off and ran away with it, popping the fortified bads in just 4 laps, which is less than 1/5 of the way through the map. This thing's gonna go for a while. It continued its dominance, but what was crazy was how fast the pops piled up. Round 284 is where this guy hit 3 billion pops as he took down an absurd number of DDTs and ZOMGs. Then he went on to hit 4 billion pops on round 296 and 5 billion just 10 rounds later on round 306. While impressive, it couldn't keep going forever. What eventually took it down were some DDTs inside the final bad of round 324, going down just like the Ultra Juggernaut that was used to make it. It finished with an impressive 7.6 billion pops, but now we have the degree 100 Apex. Interestingly enough, it did beat round 324, but it was only at 5 billion damage. I guess that has to do with the random rounds, but we can tell that its DPS is higher because it was taking out the fortified bads much quicker. Every single round was a struggle though, as those purple whales just completed lap after lap while our Paragon was shooting away. They made it pretty far each round, but what finally took it down were some speedy DDTs on round 335, 11 rounds further than the degree 92. Now, if this was the perfect map for the Apex Plasma Master, what would it be for a stronger Paragon? Well, the Goliath Doomship is the strongest, so let's make that. While I'm not sure if it's the best possible map for it, a super cool idea would be to make a track that is the exact size for planes to fly over. So here it is, a giant circle in the center of the map that balloons have to do 23 laps around before leaving. This not only works for planes placed in the middle of the circle, but also those that are set to centered path. Now to work towards getting enough pops to make a maxed out Goliath Doomship, but just like the Dart Monkey, we made it fun by God boosting these planes. We started out with a 130 bomber ace in the dead center of the circle. It took some messing around to place it perfectly, but after a while it was constantly dropping bombs all over the track. Once we got this worked out, we also got down a 402 Operation Dart Storm. This one was much easier as we just had to set it to centered path for it to follow the track perfectly. Next, we upgraded them to tier 5s and gave them every buff imaginable. Their popping power was crazy, but this slowed down my game so much that it was painful to watch. I suppose there were hundreds of darts being shot every second, but I'd be lying if I didn't say it looked kinda cool. Just like the Ultra Juggernaut, round 140 went down without a problem, as we even popped the DDTs inside before they completed their first lap. This was par for the course for a while, but sooner or later the balloons would start getting pretty far. I noticed this for the first time on round 200, where the balloons completed over 8 laps before we popped them all, and round 201 was noticeably harder. If you didn't know, the health and speed of balloons ramps up up pretty fast at this stage of the game, especially on round 201. Before long, even ZOMGs were completing several laps before getting popped, and there were enough of them that when they became BFBs, it would cap out the Pierce of the Sky Shredder. Luckily, we'd clear those out pretty fast, but the fortified bads were a different story. It was round 242 that took us down, as there were just too many bads for us to take them out in time. And the worst part was that our Sky Shredder was only 10 million pops away from the big 1 billion. Nevertheless, we had a perfect Paragon to make. Just like the Apex Plasma Master, we made him a degree 100 and he went off to the races. The only difference was that he has an ability, so I just targeted the bombing up top and put one of our tech bots on him. This constantly dropped bombs throughout the round, which devastated any balloons in their range. This thing popped the next several rounds without issue, and we quickly made it to one of my favorite rounds, 263, where we took on tons and tons of fortified DDTs. There were so many, I wasn't sure how far they were getting, but all it took was a few seconds of attacking or a single ability for our Doomship to handle them all. This popping continued through the 200s, but the early 300s is where I really noticed how slow we were popping the bads. They all completed several laps, and each round was getting harder. Every single round in the 300s, I thought we were going to leak, but it wasn't until round 315 where some fortified mobs snuck through. I'm not going to lie, I thought we had it once all the DDTs were popped, but I guess we only popped those because of the Doomship's carpet bombs. Next, we have the Bunny Paragon, otherwise known as Geraldo's pet rabbits. Now, I have no idea if we'll be able to buff this thing, but the wiki says that it inherits Geraldo's buffs, so that's what we're gonna do. We got our 4th bunny on round 64, and it handled the rounds no problem. Fast forward to round 84, and we got everything we need and then some. We used our tech bots to keep all the buffs active 100% of the time, and it was during this setup that I noticed that the bunny was attacking significantly faster than normal. Does this mean all the buffs work on it? Probably not, but it seems like the Call to Arms Village does at the minimum. Anyway, this thing cruised through the rest of the normal rounds, with round 98 being the most entertaining one to watch. Surprisingly, we did better against the round 100 bad than we did against the fortified DDTs on round 99. And apparently, this wasn't a fluke, as DDTs continued to zoom much farther than our previous runs, but the bads were kind of held in check. I mean, even the round 140 fortified bad was popped in just a few laps, whereas the DDTs on the next round made it several laps farther. This trend continued all the way to the end, where it was the DDTs on round 157 that got through. It was fun watching them go back and forth along this track so many times, as it reminded me of the fitness pacer test.
The fitness Grand Pacer
terrible
test
times.
is a multi-stage.
Anyway, for our final run, we will do Sada on Sada's map. This custom map is what gave me the idea for this video, so thank you Philly Shark 7. We booted up the map and quickly made our way to giving Sada every buff I could think of. And on top of this, we also added a super brittle for any balloon that enters the loop, and a relentless glue, as Sada does extra damage to glued balloons. I don't know if it was Sada, the glue, or something else, but boy, this game was way laggier than any of the others, especially when tons of ZOMGs got to popping. Things were going great, but round 140 was our first true test. How good is Sada at taking out a fortified bad? Well, surprisingly good, as she popped it before it even got halfway through the track. Much worse than our other tests, but let's be honest. This map was made for normal range Sada, not a god boosted one. So she'd probably do way better on a map with a bigger loop. Anyway, she trucked along, with the balloons getting slightly further and farther each round. This brings us to round 163 though, which is another one of my favorites, and she absolutely crushed it. Not a single balloon even made it to the loop. Is it an easy round? Yes, but it's still cool how well she did on it. That being said, she did lose literally the next round. The bads on round 164 were just too much for her to handle, and they got through without their outer layer even being popped. But that was how far several towers can get on their own perfect maps.